Commander Jaeon Kim felt his heart pound as he watched the emergency transmission from Earth. The holographic screen flickered with poor signal quality, but the desperation on the faces was crystal clear. He had seen many crisis meetings during his 12 years as humanity's representative to the Galactic Council, but nothing like this. Dr. Minji Park stood at the center of the transmission, her usually neat hair disheveled and her lab coat stained. Dark circles under her eyes told the story of sleepless nights fighting an impossible battle. The plague has reached every major city on every continent, she said, her voice breaking. Our hospitals are overflowing. Our best scientists cannot find a cure. This pathogen attacks our immune system in ways we have never seen before. Behind her, Jaeon could see other human officials. Some were coughing. Others looked pale and weak. The plague was already affecting the leadership. We estimate 6 months before total population collapse, Dr. Park continued. Maybe less. We are formally requesting immediate medical assistance. From all council members, humanity needs help, and we need it now. The transmission switched to Captain Doyan Lee, commander of the human colonial fleet. His military uniform was crisp, but his hand shook as he spoke. Our colony worlds are reporting similar outbreaks. As the plague spreads faster than our ships can travel. We have tried quarantine protocols, but nothing works. This organism seems designed to kill humans specifically. I turned to look at the council chamber around him. Representatives from dozens of alien species sat in their specialized seats. Some breathed different atmospheres. Others communicated through light patterns or chemical signals. But they all understood the gravity of what they were hearing. Counselor Thextra of the Crystal Dominion was the first to respond. His crystalline body chimed softly as he moved, creating musical tones that served as his voice. We have received and analyzed the pathogen samples you provided. Our biotechnology division has run extensive tests. Hope flickered in Junyun's chest. The Dominion had the most advanced medical technology in the galaxy. If anyone could help, it would be them. The results are troubling, Dextra continued, his crystal form dimming with what Jaeon had learned to recognize as concern. This organism adapts to countermeasures faster than we can develop them. Every cure we create becomes useless within hours. The pathogen learns and evolves in real time. The hope in Jejun's chest turned to ice. He looked around the chamber again, seeing the same realization on other faces. If the Dominion could not help, no one could. On the transmission screen, Captain Lee stepped forward again. Then we request evacuation assistance. We have 37 colony worlds with a combined population of 8 billion people. Surely some populations can be saved if we act quickly. Our ships can carry maybe 1 million people, but we need transport for the rest. Silence filled the council chamber. Jaeyoon watched as representatives exchanged glances, communicated through their various methods, and avoided looking at the human delegation on screen. Counselor Vexani of the Trade Federation spoke next, her multiple arms gesturing in patterns that indicated reluctance. The risk of contamination is too great. If our ships carry infected humans, the plague could spread to our worlds. We can establish quarantine protocols, Jaeon said, standing from his seat. Isolated transport. Medical screening. Whatever you need. The pathogen adapts, Thextra reminded them all. Quarantine protocols that work today may fail tomorrow. The risk to the entire galaxy is unacceptable. The transmission from Earth flickered and crackled. Dr. Park appeared again, now visibly ill. Please, she whispered. We are talking about the complete extinction of our species. There must be something you can do. But Jaeon could see the decision had already been made. Fear was stronger than compassion. The alien species had watched humanity expand across the galaxy for decades, always worried about human ambition and growth. Now they saw a chance to eliminate that concern forever. The transmission cut to static and did not return. Sunho Jun's young aide moved quietly to his side. The boy had worked with human diplomats for 3 years and understood the political currents better than most. Sir, he whispered, the council has called for an emergency vote. Jaeon did not need to ask what the vote was about. He watched as the chamber filled with the sounds and signals of alien communication. Some species voted through biochemical releases, others used complex mathematical equations. All reached the same conclusion. "The vote is unanimous," announced Council Prime Minister Zothkar, his mechanical voice emotionless. "All human space is hereby designated a class A quarantine zone. No vessels are permitted to enter or leave human territory until the pathogen threat is eliminated." It was a death sentence, disguised as a safety measure. Over the following weeks, Jaeon watched the reports come in. Human colonies fell silent one by one. Ships sent desperate final messages before their crews succumbed. Earth's great cities went dark, their lights disappearing from orbital surveillance. 3 months after the vote, the last human outpost transmitted a final weak signal before going quiet forever. The galaxy marked humanity as extinct in the official records. Jaeon Kim, the last human representative, became a historical footnote. The fear that had driven the alien species to abandon humanity was replaced by relief. 200 years passed. The galaxy moved on to new concerns and new politics. The dead worlds of human space remained sealed and forgotten. But deep beneath New Geneva's scarred surface, something stirred in the darkness. Dr. Yuna Choi floated in zero gravity near her ship's main viewport. Staring into the darkness where human space used to be, stars looked the same as anywhere else, but every pilot in the galaxy knew to avoid this region. 200 years ago, it had been called the Human Colonial Sector. Now everyone simply called it the Dead Zone, as the Confederation's top expert on extinct civilizations. Yuna had studied the ruins of dozens of dead species. Kethmori, who had destroyed themselves in nuclear war. The Velinari, who had poisoned their own atmosphere. The Jixi, whose sun had gone supernova. Here but humanity was different. They had died from a plague that appeared overnight and killed them all within months. Professor Choi called Minho from across the research vessel's cramped bridge. "Eka young." Assistant was barely 25, fresh from the academy with bright eyes and too much enthusiasm. "I'm getting those weird readings again." Yuna pushed herself over to his station, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor as she activated artificial gravity. For the past 6 months, deep space traders had reported strange things near the dead zone. Lights were no lights. Should be ships that moved through space without any crew signatures. Energy patterns that made no sense. Most people dismissed these reports as space madness or equipment failure. Traders spent too much time alone in the void and sometimes saw things that were not there. But Yuna had collected over 40 separate reports, all describing similar phenomena. "Show me," she said, looking over Minho's shoulder at the sensor. Display. The screen showed waves of energy coming from inside the quarantine zone. The patterns were regular, almost like a heartbeat. It seemed to be coming from the third planet of the New Geneva system, which had once been humanity's largest colony world outside of Earth. "Could be solar storms," suggested Ji-hoon from the pilot's seat. He was older than Minho, maybe 40, with the careful attitude of someone who had seen too many dangerous situations. "The New Geneva star has been unstable since the plague years." But his voice carried doubt. Yuna had worked with Ji-hoon for 5 years, and she knew when he was trying to convince himself of something that did not make sense. "Solar storms don't create patterns like this," she said, studying the data more carefully. "This looks almost ... organized." The Galactic Council had banned all travel into former human space. Officially, the quarantine zone was still contaminated with the plague that had killed humanity. Unofficially, most scientists believed the real reason was psychological. The alien species that made up the council felt guilty about abandoning humanity, and they wanted to forget the whole episode. But Yuna's job was to remember extinct civilizations, not forget them. She had spent years studying human culture, language, and technology. Humans had been fascinating in their diversity and determination. Yes, they deserved better than to be erased from history. Ji-hoon, she said quietly, set course for New Geneva. The pilot's head snapped around. "Professor, that's directly into the dead zone. The council has made it very clear that any unauthorized entry will result in prosecution. My pilot's license could be revoked." The council is not here, Yuna replied. We go in quietly, take sensor readings, and leave. And no one has to know. Hey, Minho looked nervous. But what if the plague is still active? What if we get infected? The plague was specifically designed to kill humans, Yuna explained. Every analysis shows it cannot affect other species. We will be safe. Ji-hoon stared at her for a long moment, then shrugged. Your ship, your career. But if we get caught, I was following orders under protest. Their research vessel was small and equipped with stealth systems designed for archaeological work in dangerous areas. As they crossed the boundary into the dead zone, Yuna felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature control. They were entering a graveyard that stretched across dozens of star systems. For 3 hours, they flew through empty space toward New Geneva. The planet appeared on their screens as a brown and gray world. Its once blue oceans dried up. Its green continents turned to desert. Orbital satellites still circled the planet, but they had been dark for 2 centuries. Take us into high orbit, Yuna ordered. I want detailed scans of the surface. That was when the proximity alarms started screaming. Minho's hands flew over his controls, trying to identify the source of the alert. Something big is moving down there, he said, his voice tight with fear. On the main viewer, they watched something impossible happen. The surface of New Geneva seemed to split open, and a massive shape began rising toward them. At first, Yuna thought it might be some kind of automated defense system left over from the human colonies. But as the object came closer, she realized it was a ship unlike anything in her database. The hull was smooth and curved, almost like it had been grown rather than built. Strange patterns of light pulsed along its surface, creating waves of color that moved from front to back. That's not human technology, Ji-hoon whispered. At least, not any human technology on record. The alien ship was enormous, easily 5 times the size of their research vessel. It moved with fluid grace, positioning itself between them and the planet below. Then their communication system crackled to life with a transmission on frequencies that had not been used for 200 years. Unknown vessel, said a voice that made Yuna's blood freeze. You are trespassing in sovereign human space. State your intentions immediately, or prepare to be boarded. The voice was human, completely, unmistakably human. But that was impossible. Humanity had been extinct for 2 centuries. Lieutenant Hyasu Jin watched the alien scientists through the clear barrier of the airlock. She could see the fear in their eyes as they stared at her through their helmet visors. Her appearance probably shocked them. Half of her face was covered with what looked like living metal that pulsed with a soft blue light. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim corridor lighting, a side effect of the genetic modifications that helped her survive in low-light environments. Take slow, deep breaths, she told them, through the communication system. The atmosphere is safe. For you, we made sure of that before we brought you aboard. Dr. Yuna Choi was the first to remove her helmet. Her hands shook as she breathed the ship's air. You're human, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But that's impossible. Records say humanity died out 200 years ago. Hyasu smiled, though the expression looked strange with her modified features. We're very much alive, Dr. Choi, though I suppose we're not quite the same species you remember from your history books. The young assistant Minho pointed at the walls around them. It's this ship, ... It's not made of metal. What is it? Living composite, Hyasu explained as she led them through the corridor. We grow our ships rather than build them. They can heal, damage, adapt to threats, and even think to some degree. Traditional human technology couldn't survive what we've been through. As they walked deeper into the vessel, Yuna noticed that every human they passed looked different. Some had additional arms that ended in tool-like appendages. Others had skin that seemed to shimmer with internal light. A few had breathing apparatus built directly into their throats. What happened to you? She asked. The plague, said a new voice from behind them. Captain Sung Min Han stepped out of an alcove, his left arm a seamless fusion of flesh and living metal. Unlike Hyace's modifications, his looked more like armor that had grown into his body. It never left us. Even now, it's in our bloodstream, trying to kill us every second of every day. Ji-hoon, the pilot, backed against the wall. Then you're contagious. We should not be here, Sung Min said with a laugh that sounded bitter. The plague was designed specifically to kill baseline humans. It can't affect other species. We learned that in the early years, when some of our alien friends tried to help. His voice turned cold on the word friends. They entered a large chamber that took Yuna's breath away. It was like a garden, but unlike any garden she had ever seen. Plants grew in impossible spirals, their leaves glowing with soft light. Some appeared to be partly mechanical, with metal veins running through organic tissue. The air itself seemed to shimmer with microscopic particles. Hydroponic food production, Sungmin explained. We had to redesign everything from scratch. Traditional agriculture couldn't survive on plague-infected worlds, so we created new plants, new growing methods, new ways of living. Through workshops where humans worked alongside machines that seemed almost alive. The machines had no hard edges, instead, flowing like liquid metal into whatever shape was needed. Workers communicated with them through touch, their modified nervous systems interfacing directly with the artificial intelligence. "How many of you are there?" Yuna asked, her scanner detecting massive energy signatures beneath the planet's surface. "On New Geneva?" "About 8 million, Sungmin replied casually. "Across all the former human worlds? Maybe 2 billion. Not bad for an extinct species." Minho's eyes went wide. 2 billion? But the plague killed everyone. All the colony worlds went silent. "The plague killed about 90% of us in the first 10 years, Haisu said, her voice matter of fact. "The weak died quickly. The strong died slowly. But some of us, we found ways to survive." They entered an elevator that seemed to grow around them rather than close with doors. They descended deep underground. Yuna's scanner went crazy with readings, cities, massive underground cities filled with millions of people. "We learned to live with death," Sungmin continued. "We modified our bodies to process the plague toxins. We changed our genetics to resist the worst effects. We built technology that could work alongside biological systems. We became something new." The elevator opened onto a vast underground space filled with light and activity. Buildings grew from the floor like living trees, their surfaces covered with the same bioluminescent patterns they had seen on the ship. People moved through the air using what looked like organic wings grafted to their backs. Children played in parks where the grass glowed softly and the trees sang with harmonic frequencies. "This is incredible," Yuna breathed. "Why didn't you contact the galaxy? Why let everyone believe you were dead?" Sungmin's expression hardened, and the metal portions of his arm shifted color to a darker shade. "Because we remember what happened when we asked for help. We remember how quickly the Galactic Council abandoned us. We remember the vote that sealed us in here to die. But surely now that you've survived, we also remember who created the plague in the first place." Hyesu interrupted, her glowing eyes fixed on Yuna. "It wasn't a natural disease. It was a weapon. A weapon designed specifically to kill humans. And only humans." Yuna felt cold, despite the warm air of the underground city. "Who? The same people who convinced the council to abandon us," Sungmin said. "The same people who are still out there, still planning the extinction of species they consider threats. We've been watching them for 2 centuries, learning their methods, preparing for the day they try again." "And now they have," Hyesu added. Quietly, "The Cathara are dying from the same plague. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Admiral Taiwan Park's artificial eyes glowed softly in the darkness of the underground command center. The room was carved from solid rock. 3 kilometers beneath New Geneva's surface, hidden from any orbital scan, holographic displays floated in the air around him, showing star maps, ship positions, and communication intercepts that painted a picture of galactic horror. His body was more machine than flesh now. The plague had forced humanity to replace failing organs with artificial ones, to merge with technology just to stay alive. His heart was a mechanical pump that never tired. His lungs were filters that could process the poisoned air of dead worlds. His brain was enhanced with quantum processors that could analyze thousands of data streams simultaneously. "Admiral," called Intelligence Officer Salman Kim from across the chamber. Her voice carried the weight of terrible news. "The intercepts are confirmed. The hegemony has released the plague on Cathara Prime. Summon's appearance would have terrified the galaxy's leaders. Her skin was partially translucent, showing the modified circulatory system beneath that constantly filtered plague toxins from her blood. Her eyes had been replaced with cybernetic sensors that could see across multiple spectrums. She was beautiful in the way that survival could be beautiful, terrible and necessary. Same pathogen signature? Asked Fleet Commander Wanho Lee. His right hand was completely mechanical, capable of interfacing directly with ship systems. The plague had eaten away his original hand decades ago, but the replacement was stronger, faster, more precise. Identical, Salmon confirmed. The hegemony kept samples of the bioweapon they used on us. They've been refining it, making it more efficient. The Cathara population is collapsing faster than ours did. Around the circular table, the other leaders of humanity's hidden civilization absorbed this information. These were the people who had crawled back from extinction, who had rebuilt their species from the ashes of abandonment. Each bore the marks of their transformation: enhanced muscles, reinforced bones, organs that could process toxins that would kill baseline humans in minutes. Dr. Hein Wunam, chief biotechnician, pulled up a holographic display showing plague progression models. His head was partially shaved to accommodate the neural interface ports that let him communicate directly with the vast biological computers that ran humanity's underground cities. "I've been analyzing hegemony communications for the past 50 years, he said, his voice distorted by the breathing apparatus grafted into his throat. This was always their plan. They identified 12 species as potential threats to their expansion. Humanity was just the first test." The display showed a list of species names, with humanity already marked as eliminated. The Cathara were next on the list, followed by the Velinari, the Jontarim, and others. "They're going to kill them all," whispered communications officer Guwan. She was younger than the others, only 40, but her body showed the same modifications. Her ears had been replaced with advanced audio processors that could intercept communications across half the galaxy. Billions of people, just like they tried to kill us. Taiwan studied the tactical displays showing current ship positions. Hegemony fleet was massive, but they had grown lazy over 2 centuries of easy victories. They relied on overwhelming firepower and the fear of other species. They had never faced an enemy that had nothing left to lose. "What's the Council's response?" he asked. Summon's laugh was bitter, the same as always. "They're calling for medical aid, forming committees, debating quarantine procedures. Just like they did for us, right before they voted to seal us in here to die. The Cathara have maybe 6 months before total population collapse," Dr. Nam added. "The Council will debate for a year, then decide it's too dangerous to help. The hegemony knows this. They're counting on it." A new signal appeared on Juwan's communication board. She listened for a moment, then looked up with tears in her cybernetic eyes. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Cathara Prime. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, begging for help from anyone who has experienced fighting the plague." The transmission crackled through the chamber speakers. The voice was weak, desperate, speaking in the universal trade language that all spacefaring species used. "This is Dr. Vexana of the Cathara Medical Council. Our people are dying. The plague spreads faster than we can treat it. We know this disease has been used before. Please, if anyone has survived this pathogen, if anyone knows how to fight it, we need your help." Silence filled the command center. Every person in the room remembered hearing similar pleas from their own people 2 centuries ago. They remembered the fear, the desperation, the slow realization that help was not coming. "The hegemony thinks we're extinct," Wanho said quietly. "Their intelligence reports list humanity as eliminated. They won't be watching for us." "Sir," Salman added, "our stealth technology is centuries ahead of anything they have. We could strike their fleet before they know we exist." Taiwan looked around the table at the faces of his fellow survivors. These people had been forged in the fire of abandonment, shaped by centuries of struggle, hardened by the constant presence of death in their bodies. They were no longer the same species that had once begged the Galactic Council for help. "Long to prep the fleet?" he asked. 12 hours, Wanho replied. "Ships are always ready." We've been preparing for this moment for 200 years. Then we go, Taiwan decided. It's time the galaxy learned what humanity looks like when we refuse to die. The command center erupted into activity as humanity prepared to reveal itself. To a galaxy that had written its obituary 2 centuries ago, Admiral Kethfer of the Hegemony. Warfleet stood on his command bridge, watching the tactical display with growing confusion. His fleet had been in the middle of what they called a pacification operation around Kythera Prime, when unknown ships had appeared from dark space. The vessels were unlike anything in his military database. Sir, his tactical officer reported. I count 37 unknown vessels. Design signature matches no known species. They're positioning themselves between us and the planet. Kethfer studied the strange ships through his view screen. They were sleek and curved, with hulls that seemed to pulse with internal light. They moved with fluid grace, more like living creatures than constructed vessels. After 2 centuries of easy victories, the hegemony had grown used to enemies who ran when faced with superior firepower. Open communications, he ordered. See who thinks they can interfere with hegemony operations. The signal went out on standard military frequencies. Unknown vessels, you are interfering with a lawful pacification operation. This system is under hegemony control. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. The response came on frequencies that Kethfer's computer identified as ancient human communication bands. But that was impossible. Humanity had been extinct for 200 years. This is Admiral Taiwan Park of the Human Resistance Fleet, came the reply. The voice was calm, cold, carrying the weight of centuries. You deployed a bioweapon against our species 200 years ago. Today you face the survivors. Kethfer felt his blood freeze. The humans were supposed to be dead. The plague had been specifically designed to kill every last one of them. The Galactic Council had confirmed their extinction decades ago. Impossible, he whispered, then activated his communication system again. Humanity is extinct. You cannot be human. Are what humanity became when you tried to kill us all, Taiwan replied. We are what survival looks like when there is no other choice. On his flagship, Taiwan Park watched the hegemony fleet through eyes that could see across multiple spectrums of light. His enhanced vision detected the panic spreading through enemy ships as their crews realized who they were facing. The hegemony had built their reputation on the idea that they were the apex predators of the galaxy. They had never faced prey that fought back. All ships, prepare for combat, Taiwan ordered. Remember what they did to our homeworld? Remember the children who died while the galaxy watched and did nothing? Captain Narration commanded the lead assault group from her living ship. The vessel's hull rippled with patterns of aggressive bioluminescence, a warning display that would have been beautiful if it were not so deadly. Her ship had been grown rather than built, its consciousness linked directly to her enhanced nervous system. Target their command vessels first, she transmitted to her squadron. Let them feel what it's like to watch their leaders die. The battle began with the hegemony's typical tactic of overwhelming firepower. Energy beams and missile barrages filled space between the 2 fleets. But something strange happened when the weapons struck the human ships. Instead of exploding or burning, the vessels absorbed the damage. Their hulls flowed like liquid, closing wounds, adapting to new threats in real time. Sir Kethfer's weapons officer reported in panic. Our weapons are having no effect. Our ships are healing faster than we can damage them. The human ships moved forward like a pack of predators, their formation flowing and changing as they closed distance. They fired weapons that seemed to grow from their hulls. Energy patterns that pulsed with the same organic rhythm as heartbeats. When hegemony ships were hit, they did not just take damage. They began to fail in cascading system breakdowns, as if the human weapons were designed to cause maximum suffering rather than quick destruction. Retreat, Kethfer ordered, but it was too late. The human ships had surrounded his fleet with movements too fast and coordinated for normal crews to achieve. He realized that the enemy commanders were not just controlling their ships, but were merged with them, thinking and acting as single organisms. The battle was over in less than an hour. Half the hegemony fleet was destroyed. The other half was disabled, their crews forced to watch as human boarding parties moved through their ships with the efficiency of antibodies, destroying an infection. While the space battle raged, other human ships had landed on Kithara Prime. Dr. Hunawanam worked in the planet's largest hospital, alongside Kithara physicians who stared at him in amazement. His body processed the plague toxins as easily as breathing, his modified immune system producing antibodies that could save the dying aliens around him. "How is this possible?" asked Dr. Vexana, the Kithara medical chief. "The plague was designed to be incurable. We've been living with it for 2 centuries, Hunwa replied, his artificial organs filtering poison from his blood while he worked. "We know this disease better than its creators. We are its survivors, and survivors remember everything." Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. Humanity was alive. It's not just alive, but transformed into something that could face the hegemony's might and win. The species that had once begged for help had become something that no longer needed it. In the Galactic Council chambers, same aliens who had voted to abandon humanity 2 centuries ago watched the battle reports in stunned silence. They had created their own nightmare by refusing to help when help was needed. Admiral Tuan stood on his bridge as the last hegemony ship surrendered. He thought of Commander Jaeon Kim, who had died believing his species was forgotten. He thought of all the children who had perished while the galaxy looked away. "This is what we learned about survival," he said quietly to himself. "Sometimes, the only way to live is to become something new." The dead were remembered, the living were protected. And humanity had shown the galaxy that extinction was just another challenge to overcome.